Welcome to the Buce Plant channel, where we cover everything aquascaping and we try and entertain and inspire you along the way. My name is Logan with Team Buce Plant, and today we're going to give you an introduction to what aquascaping is and how it can enhance your life, as well as give you the very basics of all the different equipment you're going to need to get started. So I know getting started with a hobby can be a little bit overwhelming in the beginning, but that's where we come in handy. We're going to make sure this is nice and easy to digest for you and provide you with all the resources you need to get started. So let's dive in. Okay, so what is aquascaping? Maybe you've heard of it, or you've seen pictures on the internet, or you have a friend that does it. Well, according to Wikipedia, aquascaping is the craft of arranging aquatic plants, as well as rocks, stones, cavework, or driftwood in an aesthetically pleasing manner within an aquarium. In effect, gardening underwater. Okay, Wikipedia, I think that's a good start, but in order to put it into my own words, aquascaping is this crazy, beautiful combination of art meets science meets design. In essence, it's bringing a slice of nature into your home and taking an artistic approach in creating it. It's sort of like underwater gardening. And the reason that aquascaping is so cool is because it uses natural elements like rocks and plants to sort of inject some life into your living space or your office. It can be a really complex, intricate hobby, or it can be as simple and zen-like as you want it to be. Either one is going to inject a lot of life and joy into your space. So it just depends on how much you want to invest into this hobby and how far you take it. So now that we've got that under our belt, let's talk about the specific equipment you're going to need to get started with your first aquascape. So in order to design your first aquascape, you're gonna need your canvas. And in this hobby, your canvas is a glass tank. And glass tanks come in a variety of different categories, with the most common ones being the rimmed tank, the rimless tank, and the all-in-one aquarium. So let's start talking about the rimmed tank, which is the more old school traditional approach. It's also the most budget friendly. So as the name implies, a rimmed tank is a glass box with a plastic rim on the top. And it has its pros and cons. So that plastic rim can be a little bit of an eyesore in the aquascaping hobby. We tend to like to minimize the presence of equipment. However, with that plastic rim, there's a little ledge on the inside that you can very easily put a top on. And the good thing about having a top is it prevents evaporation, it prevents fish from jumping out, and it'll also maintain the heat in the aquarium if you're heating your aquarium, which is fairly common in this hobby, depending on where you live. The great thing about rim tanks is they're extremely affordable. However, the glass isn't quite as clear and see-through as some of the tanks we're gonna talk about up next. So this is a great way to get started, and it's super budget friendly, but if you're really looking for something that is gonna be a showpiece and super premium and high-end, that's where I would recommend going the rimless route. So rimless tanks are extremely popular in the aquascaping hobby because they provide the most unobtrusive, unobstructed view into the art inside that tank. The UNS tanks have these beautiful corners and these mitred edges that further kind of contribute to that unobtrusive view of the tank. So if you see aquascaping as something you want to take very seriously as an art form, I definitely recommend in investing something like a UNS tank because you're going to have it for many years and it's just going to look absolutely stunning in your home. And finally, we have the all-in-one tanks. So these tanks typically have some equipment built into them, typically an area for filtration in the back where you can add a bunch of filter media and possibly even a heater. So this is a great option for somebody who doesn't want to individually source products and they just want their filtration kind of built in. And they look very beautiful as well. So do your research, find something that works for you. So now that you've got your canvas all set, it's time to build the aquascape itself. And all great aquascapes start with a foundation. And in this hobby, the foundation is the substrate. So you can kind of think of substrate as the soil if this was a garden. And we very commonly in aquascaping use something called aqua soil, which are these little round clay-based balls that contain nutrients and a growing medium for plants. And we highly recommend, if you're gonna grow plants, that you use something like our UNS Contour soil because it's gonna provide the plants with all the resources they need. Because on the other side, you have what are called inert substrates, which are like a sand and a gravel. Sand and gravel can be used really nicely to sort of accent a planted section of your tank. So you can create a border of sand or simulate the look of a river with sand or create a riverbank with gravel. It's really up to you. And these substrate types don't provide any nutrients for plants. So while you can get away with planting in sand and gravel, they're just not ideal. And again, if you want to really grow something lush and vibrant and bring out the true potential of your plants, an aqua soil is going to get you there. Additionally, an aqua soil actually lowers the pH of your tank by buffering it. And without getting too deep into water chemistry, that's a really good thing because your plants are going to appreciate a slightly acidic condition, as well as most of the tropical fish that we keep in this hobby. Okay, now that our foundation of substrate is in place, it's time to talk about my favorite component of building a new aquascape, and that is the hardscape. So you can think of hardscape as sort of the building blocks of your layout, and hardscape can be stones, it can be wood, or it can even be an artificial decoration. On our website, you'll see that we carry the UNS strata, which are very carefully designed to simulate the look of a beautiful outcropping of rocks, and they come in several varieties. So if the idea of sort of individually collecting different rocks and pieces of wood is a little bit intimidating for you and you just kind of want it all in one ready to go, then the UNS strata is going to be the perfect option for you. So go ahead and check those on the website. All the equipment links we recommend will be down below in the description, but you could also head over to buceplant.com and research for yourself. And now it's time to talk about lighting, one of the most important aspects of this hobby because it's going to illuminate all the beautiful work you've done. So in aquascaping, the most prevailing type of lighting is LED lighting, and that's for several reasons. It's very energy efficient, it's very cost effective, and LED lights today are really optimized to grow plants with the proper wavelengths that they need to thrive. So on the market, there are lots of different brands of LED lighting. They come in a variety of shapes, sizes, and it's going to really depend on the size of your tank. Additionally, it's going to depend on the types of plants you grow, which you choose. So if you head over to the Buce Plant website and go to our plant section, you'll see that with our tissue culture plants, we have easy category, medium category, and advanced category plants. And the advanced category plants are going to require very high lighting. However, the easy plants can get by in the shade with lower lighting. So you can think of lighting as the gas pedal of your tank. So with high lighting, you're gonna get vibrant plants and really fast, lush growth, and you're gonna be able to grow a variety of different plants that are very challenging. However, algae can also thrive in those conditions because they love a lot of light. So you really have to be on top of your maintenance if you're running a high lighting, high energy setup. So with high lighting comes great responsibility. Be ready to do your maintenance and just know that there's a slightly higher risk of getting algae. And now it's time to talk about filtration, which I like to describe as sort of the heart and lungs of your aquascape. So the filtration does several things. Number one, it houses beneficial bacteria that convert the fish waste into something that is non-toxic. It provides circulation throughout the tank so that your plants receive nutrients and things kind of move along and aren't stagnant. And in this hobby, we have three very common filter types: the hang-on back filter, also known as the HOB filter, the canister filter, and the sponge filter. So the HOB filters, as the name implies, hang on the back or the side of your tank, and they have some pros and cons. They're very budget friendly. They're somewhat customizable. Usually you can swap out filter cartridges or have different layers of filter medium, and they also provide very good surface agitation. So these are a good budget option. They can be a little bit of an eyesore. However, as long as you can kind of hide them, then they might get the job done for you. They're a great entry-level filter. But my all-time favorite filter is the canister filter. And while these can be a little bit expensive up front, they're the most customizable and they're very large, and you can easily hide them in something like a cabinet or to the side bottom of your tank. And the cool thing about these things is you can load them up with biological filtration. So you can put a ton of media that's gonna house beneficial bacteria and really have a filter that can sustain a ton of life, because really it's your filter that allows your aquascape to sustain life. And finally, the most budget-friendly and a little bit more of an old school approach is the sponge filter. But the sponge filter primarily provides what's called mechanical filtration. So water is going through the sponge, that sponge is kind of collecting debris, and then cleaner water is being put out. And on that sponge will grow beneficial bacteria. However, it's not going to be quite as much surface area for that bacteria as the canister filter will house. But if you decide you want to have a lot of fish or a big school of fish, I tend to recommend going with either a canister filter or a HOB if you're on a tighter budget. And the final topic we're going to cover is CO2. And right off the bat, I do want to emphasize that depending on what you're trying to accomplish with your tank, CO2 can be optional. However, you have to know that all plants are going to benefit from CO2. Carbon is the #1 resource that plants need to grow and thrive. They are a carbon-based life form. And the way we get carbon to them is through injecting pressurized CO2. To a lot of beginners, it can seem really intimidating. There's some higher upfront costs, but really once you get past that initial learning curve, it's nothing to be afraid of, and it's gonna unlock the true potential of your tank. So if you decide you wanna grow advanced plants, and if you have a high lighting setup, I would highly recommend that you go the injected CO2 route. And the way you're gonna inject CO2 into your tank is by purchasing a pressurized canister. And if you head over to the Buce Plant website, you'll see that we sell some canisters of various sizes, but you can also head over to your local welding shop and purchase a very large canister. It just depends on the size of the layout and how often you wanna replace the CO2. So I want to reiterate that I know in the beginning this can sound super intimidating, but trust us, we got your back. We're going to walk you through the whole process, and we're going to have specific videos on each and every one of these topics where we go into in-depth detail, show you the individual products, show you how to set everything up. This was just kind of meant to be a primer to get you started, but do us a favor and let us know down below in the comments which of these topics you'd like to see us cover in depth first. Stick with us, we've got a lot of great stuff coming. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Logan with Team Buce Plant. Now get out there and create something beautiful.